I should have mentioned in my last video that the guy reading the questions is Martimer81. He's not the apologist who came up with the questions. It turns out the list is by Matt Slick. There's a link in the description to Martimer's answers, and I recommend checking that out.
If you were at one time a believer in the Christian God, what caused you to deny his existence?
I actually don't deny his existence. I don't know what he is, so I don't think I can make any judgment regarding his existence. When I was a child, people told me there was a God and I didn't question it until I heard someone say that God does not exist. Once I heard that, I immediately realized that I had accepted the notion of God's existence far too readily. I didn't even understand what I was accepting.
Do you believe the world would be better off without religion?
I think it would be better off without belief in the supernatural. I think the world would be better off if everyone were more empirical and pragmatic in their worldview. If in such a world there were beliefs that people still referred to as religious, then they probably wouldn't be that bad.
Do you believe the world would be better off without Christianity?
Unless there is some pragmatic empirical interpretation of Christianity, then yes.
Do you believe that faith in a god or gods is a mental disorder?
No, I think there's a meaningful difference between indoctrination and delusion.
Must God be known through the scientific method?
If you define God as merely a subjective emotion, as some New Agey folks do, then no. You can know that you are experiencing an emotion without any empirical corroboration. If, however, you define God as something more than that, then I don't understand what it would mean to say you know God if God has no empirical manifestation.
If you answered yes to the previous question, and I did, then how do you avoid a category mistake by requiring material evidence for an immaterial God?
Simple. I don't see how immaterial things, whatever the fuck they are, can be known at all.
Do we have any purpose as human beings?
I don't see how we could have any inherent purpose, no.
If we do have purpose, can you, as an atheist, please explain how that purpose is determined?
See my last answer.
Where does morality come from?
People, ultimately.
Are there moral absolutes?
There are actions that I find my conscience is unable to tolerate in any conceivable scenario. The relationship between these actions and my conscience is, in that sense, absolute.
If there are moral absolutes, could you list a few of them?
The strongest example would be the one Sam Harris gives, causing the worst possible suffering for everyone forever. There is no conceivable scenario under which my conscience would assent to that.
Do you believe there is such a thing as evil? If so, what is it?
Any action that is intolerable to my conscience has the quality of being evil.
If you believe that the God of the Old Testament is morally bad, by what standard do you judge that he is bad?
My conscience.
What would it take for you to believe in God?
Just two simple things: a definition I can understand, and evidence for which the existence of God is the simplest falsifiable explanation.
What would constitute sufficient evidence for God's existence?
It would be sufficient if it's empirically demonstrable and most simply explained by the hypothesis that God exists. God would also have to be defined in such a way that the absence of such evidence would constitute a falsification of God's existence.